Hi everyone and welcome back to Math 11. So in this video we're going to be looking at Chapter 5, which is Statistical Reasoning. So Section 5.1 is fairly short, so what I include in this video is also the introduction to the chapter, which goes over some of the review from the definitions that you probably remember from your grade 8 or grade 9 math. So let's take a look at some of these definitions that you should be already familiar with. So the first one is mean. So the mean means the average. So basically, if you have a data set like we do here, in order to find the mean, we need to add all the numbers together and then divide it by the number of values that you have in your set. In this case, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 numbers. So we have 5 values in our data set. So we're going to add them together and divide by 5. So it doesn't really matter which order you add them, so we can just add them in the order they appear. And then divide them by 5. Now be careful when you do this on the calculator. If you're going to do this in the calculator in one step, make sure you put parentheses around this. Otherwise, you will get the wrong answer because your calculator is going to think that you're just dividing the 20 by 5, not the whole sum. So be careful with that. So if you add all the numbers on the top together, you're going to end up with 86. And then you divide this by 5, you're going to get 17.2. So that's going to be our average or our mean. So mean is the proper term that we use in statistics or in math. So the next term is the median. Now the median is the middle number if you arrange your data from smallest to largest or from largest to smallest. So if you look here, we have 12, 17, 14, 23, and 20. So they're not organized. So the first step is to organize them. Let's do it from smallest to largest. So the smallest number is 12. The largest one looks like it's 23. And it's pretty easy to do if you have a small data set like this one. So we have 12, then we have 14, 17, 20, and 23. So now we're going to look which number is in the middle. In the middle we have number 17. So this number here is going to be our median. So the median, in this case, of this data set is 17, which is the number that's in the middle. Now notice that here we have 5 values in our data set. If you have an even number of terms in your data set, then the median is going to be the average of 2 middle numbers. Okay, so just keep that in mind. If you have even number of values, then you might have to take the average of the 2 numbers next to each other. So that's something to keep in mind here. So in case you have even number of terms. All right, so let's take a look at the next one. So the next data set, we have 3, 3, and this should be a comma here. So let's fix that. So that should be 5 comma 6, not 5.6. So the median in this case, if you have even number, so notice here we have even number of values, number of values or terms. Okay, we have 4 of them. To find the median, again, first step is to arrange it from lowest to highest or from highest to lowest, which is already done for us in this case. So if I write it again here, we get 3, 3, 5, and 6. So if you look, the 2 numbers that appear in the middle are going to be the 3 and the 5. So to find the median in this data set, we need to average these 2 numbers together, and we know to find the average, we need to add them first, and because there's only 2, we're going to divide it by 2. So in this case, we get 8 over 2, which is going to be 4. So the median in this example, so the median here is going to be 4. So again, even number, you're going to add the 2 middle numbers together and take the average. Now the third definition is the mode. The mode is the most popular number. Okay, so that's the number that occurs the most times in your data set. So for example, if you look at the same data set again, 3, 3, 5, 6, we see that the 3 appears twice. So in this case, for this data set, the mode is going to be 3 because it happens twice. So mean, median, and mode are 3 measures of the central tendency. Okay, so central tendency means ways of how we can look at either the most frequent number, the most common number, or the average number. So basically those three things are what defines the central tendency of a data set. So again, hopefully you remember these from grade 8 or grade 9. Now there's another definition here, which is in your introduction to chapter 5, which is called an outlier. So for example, if you have a data set and you have a number that's really different from the others, and by really different, it means significantly different. For example, if you have data set of 12, 15, 10, and 17, and 200, you notice that the 200 really stands out because it's quite different from the other ones. Now, it doesn't always have to be the biggest number. Sometimes it could be really small. For example, if you have 12, 15, 10, 17, 20, and then you have like 0.05, that can also be an outlier. So basically, it's just really different. So it could be really much bigger or much, much smaller than the other numbers. So in this case, the outlier in this data set is the 200 because it's considerably bigger than the other values. So this is going to be our outlier. All right. Now, outliers are just numbers that could be because of there's an error in measurement, or sometimes, it's just an aberration in your data set, or it just happens to be there. Like sometimes people, for example, if we're talking about people, let's say if these were heights, someone could be really taller than the rest, right? So let's say the average is like 1.7 meter, right? And someone is like 2.5 meters tall, right? So that would be an outlier. Now, another definition that we have here is the range, and this is something you probably also know from either grade 8 or grade 9. And range is not a measure of central tendency, but it's the spread between the lowest and the highest numbers. So this is the easiest way to measure a spread. It's just basically looking at the lowest value and the highest value. And you can calculate this by taking the biggest number and then subtracting the smallest number from it. So what is the range of the data set above? Well, let's take a look. If we look at this data set and we look at the range, so the range here can be defined as the maximum or the biggest number minus the minimum, right? So in our case, the maximum number in this data set is 200, which happens to be an outlier, and then the minimum is 10. So max minus min is going to be 200 minus 10. So this is going to be 190. So the range of values is 190. Okay? Now, if you, for example, took the data set from here, so 3356, let me use a different color here. So let's say we do, our set is 3356. In this case, this is our minimum, and this is our maximum. So the range for this set is going to be, again, max minus the min, and the maximum is 6. So we get 3 as our range value. Okay, so again, the biggest number minus the smallest number. So here's an example. We have a data table which represents the payroll of 3 different companies. So we have media focused advertisement, computer rescue, auto value sales. And then we have a bunch of different values of their employers and what they are making. These are annual salaries. So the question is, we want to determine the range, any outliers, and the mode for each company. Okay? So first, let's say we do the first column, which is the media focused advertising. So what we want to find is the highest number, the lowest number, the total number of values that we have here in order to calculate the average, the range, or actually in this case, what do we need to find the average? The mode, sorry. So to find the mode, we need to find the middle number, okay? The most frequent number. So the biggest one is already on the top. So these are already arranged from highest to lowest. So we don't need to rearrange them. We can just double check that that's the case for all of them. So we have increasing values if you go from bottom to the top. Same thing on this column. All numbers are increasing. So there's no mixing of the numbers. So these are already organized from highest to lowest if you look from the top down. So in this case, this is our maximum, and this one here is our minimum, right? So for the first one, if you want to find a range, you're going to do 245,000 let's just write a K for thousands here, minus 27.3 thousand, so 27.3 thousand. So our answer here is going to be our range value. So we have 245,000 minus 27,300. We get 217 and 700. So that's going to be our range for the first company. Now, the outliers are going to be the numbers that are much different from the rest. So we start at the lowest, which is 27,300. Then we go up to 245. Now, in the bulk of it, if you look, most of these are under 100,000, right? So we have 27, 30, 40, 60, and then we have 245, 162. So if I were to say the outlier is definitely going to be the maximum number, because this is like triple than most of the numbers in the middle here, right? So that's definitely looks like the outlier. So if I were to pick one outlier, it would definitely be 245, perhaps even both of these, 162,000 and 245,000. It really depends on the data set they have, but in this case, I'd probably pick the 245,000 as my outlier. Now, the mode is going to be the number that's going to be the most frequent. So we have to look and check what numbers repeat. So we have 61,000 repeating twice. Let's check there's no other ones that are repeating, because you can have multiple modes. That's one thing I didn't mention yet. We can have multiple modes in a set if you have multiple numbers repeating. So in this case, we have 61,000 repeat twice. So our mode for this one is going to be 61,000. I don't see any other ones that repeat. So in this case, our mode is going to be 61,000. Now let's do the middle one. So this is CR, or computer rescue. So again, if we look at the top, we have our maximum value, and at the bottom we have our minimum value. So to find our range is going to be the minimum, minus the maximum minus the minimum. So 362,000 minus 52,300. So 362,000 minus the 52,300. That's going to be 309,700. So again, let me just write the answer here because there's no lot of room here. But you're going to do, again, max minus min, and the answer in this case happens to be this number. So again, you can look at the numbers in the table and fill in the answers if you're going to do this by hand. Now, as far as the outliers go, we see that it starts at around 50,000 and goes up to 90,000, almost 100. And then we have this maximum of 362. So definitely the outlier is going to be the biggest number here. So perhaps it's the owner or the CEO of the company, but the 362,000 is definitely the outlier in this case. All right, so we know the outliers and we know the range of the values. So let's find the mode. So again, the mode is the numbers that repeat. So in this case, we have, let's see what numbers repeat here. So let's start at the bottom, 52. These are pretty close, but they're different. Again, these are pretty close, but different. And we see that 96,500 repeat twice. And I don't see any other numbers to repeat. So in this case, that's going to be our mode. So that's the repeating number, which happens to occur twice, so 96,500. Okay, so the last company, AVS, which stands for auto value cells. Again, max is on the top here. That's our maximum. Here's our minimum. So in order to find the range, we're going to take the maximum, 97,500 minus 55,250. So let's just do that calculation. 97,500 minus 55,250. We get 42,250. So again, we're doing the maximum minus the minimum. And the answer here was 42,250. Now the outlier looks like, again, is going to be I would say the biggest number again, really. Actually, they're not that much different. They're all within the 5-figure range. So this one, I would say, doesn't really have outliers because all the numbers are fairly close. But if I was pressed to pick one, probably be, again, the maximum value here. But they're all fairly similar. So you can mention that these are fairly similar values here. 97,500 seems to be the biggest one. But all values are within, let's say, 5 figures. So it's not a huge spread. So, sorry, I put this in the wrong section. This should go in the should go there. So that's our outlier. And then the last part is, of course, the mode, and that's the most frequent value. So from the bottom, we see 55,250 is repeating twice already. Let's check if there's any other ones that repeat. So 57, no, 58, nothing. 61, 62, pretty close, but nothing. So it looks like those are the only two numbers that repeat. So in this case, our mode is going to be 55,250. All right, so that's a quick review of some of the stuff that you probably already know from your previous math class. So as far as 5.1, this is just an introduction. So there's not really a lot of new concepts here. This is just review. So I encourage you to read the section 5.1 as well as the introduction to the chapter, so where most of this stuff is taken from. I also included some of the PDF files for this chapter so you can read it through Teams if you don't have your textbook or if it's somewhere else. So you have all information on Teams. So for practice, make sure you go to the course info section and you do the statistical reasoning. So this is our chapter 5 here. And the readings are, again, page 210, or actually I would say 208, and then do questions 1 and 2.